What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Steelhead Alley podcast. I'm Kyle, and I've got my co-host Zack here with me. And we are back with part 2 of our trip recap, and this is where things really start to heat up. We're picking things back up on day 2, still chasing better flows and clarity, putting on some serious boot miles, and grinding for every fish we could find. It wasn't easy at first, but we kept moving, adjusting, and stayed locked in. In this episode, we break down what finally changed as the water started to shape up, how bouncing streams and covering ground really paid off, and the moment when the bite turned on and everything seemed to click. Then we roll into day 3, back on familiar water with better flows, turbidity, and a whole new outlook. From early morning action to finding fish that absolutely took us to task. This episode is packed with hookups, lost battles, and the kind of chaos that reminds you why you chase steelhead in the first place. We got a good one for you today, so let's keep this one rolling, and now, let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back, Steelhead Alley podcast, and we are doing part 2 of the trip recap. So we're picking up from where we left off. Our trip a couple weeks ago, got into the first day and a half, trials and tribulations, some recon searching, and then ultimately decided to make our way. Jumping back into that, Zack, welcome back, man. What's up?
Not much, man. This is the good part. This is where it gets good.
This is where it gets good.
It was eventful, but it was kind of slow, and this is where things heat up a little bit. So I had to get into it.
From here on out, some of us struggled, but put a lot of fish in the net, or I guess we should say hooked into a lot of fish. Not as many in the net, but we had our moments.
Had our opportunities for sure.
We did. Some big fish, too. Man, we hooked into some absolute giants.
I agree. Everything's big on the 4-weight, but there were some big ones.
Yeah. Dude, again, I've seen that 4-weight bend. She was tested.
Do you get nervous? Do you get nervous when you're seeing it? Does it look bad?
To be honest, yes, it does. It looks bad. I'm not going to lie. The rod is bent in half. But at the same time, I look at it, I'm like, geez, that's crazy. But it doesn't really ever come to my mind where I'm like, oh, that's going to snap. You're just used to it at this point. It looks bad, though.
After one of the fish, I think it was with Dave, I said, that's the limit right there. I think I found it. That one fish that I hooked. We'll get into it. But
yeah, we will. Zack rolled a really big dog, and sounds like the 4-weight may have been slightly undergunned.
Might have met its match.
Yeah, but honestly, there's a class of fish up there that they're just different. We've alluded to that. We've talked about it in some of our previous episodes, but they're just bigger. And honestly, even with the 7-weight, I feel like some of those fish, they absolutely work you. But it was fun to watch. I enjoy watching you. Everyone will get a preview in some of the video when it comes out.
Nice.
So as we're getting back into this, we sniffed 2 fish. I rolled one Thursday morning, not too long into it, maybe a half hour or so. Felt longer, right, because of the conditions. We talked about that. Working our way up, and I landed a nice fish in a nice bucket. And honestly, I just knew that run so well. I knew where the fish would potentially be lying, and I think I got lucky in that moment because I fished that run a lot longer after you guys. You guys went up, kept moving. I was like, I'm going to hit this hard, and I didn't sniff another bite. So could have been luck. I mean, I'll take it. It was a really nice fish.
Yeah, it was supposed to be mine.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Hey, you and Dave were both in there before I was.
I picked the wrong spot. You're right. That's good.
That's right, buddy. But yeah, so then ultimately we went upstream, worked some really good water, right? We were in water that I've gotten fish out of, and we weren't sniffing anything else. We had four lines in these runs, hitting them hard, and it didn't produce. So ultimately we make our way back to the vehicles and then switch streams and meet up with Beaver and his buddy. I didn't see Brett once on the stream. Did you?
Nope. No, I didn't see him.
Which is actually kind of the way it is. Brett's always off doing his own thing, which is cool. And he's always catching them. So yeah, so we pack up, decide to head to lower water, better conditions, and then let the stream we were just on settle down and get back on it, hopefully in the next day. And we decided to go upstream from Beaver and his buddy. They were down lower. Mm-hmm. So we parked up higher at this one entrance and kind of work our way down to Beaver. I'm not going to lie. So we hadn't really been on this stream in a few years. And I did forget. It was a little bit longer in between where we parked to where Beaver was than I remembered.
Yeah.
And we were going to kind of work up a little bit and then work back down and then hopefully meet up and find Beaver. So we jumped in, and how did we kind of move throughout it from there, Zack?
Yes, you brought up a good point. I don't think I've been on this stream since maybe my first trip or maybe my second trip. We might have hit it once, but it's been a while. Once we got into the prime water on this day where we ultimately ended up catching them, I remember looking around like, These don't look very familiar. It took me a while to kind of get my bearings and understand where I was at. We end up going upstream from where we put in at up to a nice hole and kind of fished that for a while. And we're really sniffing nothing. Big hole for steelhead. Great holding area. And they either weren't there or weren't biting.
Little hard to get a good drift.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a bunch of different currents, and it was tough to get a good drift with anything in there. We bebopped in there for a little bit and kind of started meander our way down and meet Beef because he's working up. So we thought, so we're gonna work our way down to him. So going downstream, and we're not really sniffing much, but we were also kind of fishing fast, I would say, because I kind of knew the water I wanted to get to. I was fishing, but I wasn't fishing crazy hard. And anybody who's listened to this podcast for longer than 10 minutes, we're now at the place where it was my first experience in Steelhead Alley, which was we park ourselves at a hole, do a bunch of scouting, and this is where all the headlamps start coming down through the woods. So I get to that spot, and on this day, there's nobody there, luckily. And I know more than likely there's going to be steelhead in there. So I ended up getting into my first one there. Actually down out of the main hole, but I was a little bit downstream. I just threw my line up against a bank, a little depression. It was almost like watching a big troutie. I watched the steelhead come out from an undercut, chased my egg, smacked it, and banked him because I didn't have a net. I was way far away from Dave, so I had to bank it and pick it up with my bare hands in the water. And it almost got off. It actually got to the bank, snapped me off, and then I had to scoop it with my hands and hold it up. I don't know how I scooped it like a bear and held it up real quick. And then from then on, you guys caught up to us. You and Stump did.
Hold on, Zach. I wanna talk about this setup and this fish for a second. So you were down ahead of us, like you said. Dave's behind you. I think me and Stump are working a little bit slower, and we were working some good water. But to your point, nothing was really moving, and some of that water was clear enough where you could kind of search for bodies and move a little
That's
bit
what I
quicker.
mean by fishing fast.
Right. Until you got to some of those deeper, longer runs where that water was getting greener. And I had gotten there fourth. So Stump was already in that run behind you, and you held up your hands. So I was pumped that you got one. I don't remember that you beached it. That's cool. It's always like a badge of honor if you beach one without a net. And I know people do it all the time, but there's that security in the netting the fish. And so that's cool. So you described the bite a little bit. But it was even cooler than I think you really described. You said this, but you saw this fish move for your fly, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
That's cool. When you see,
it was like a big trout bite. It was almost like jigging a streamer in and watching a fish come up and eat it. I was watching my flies. All of a sudden, I see this big dark spot come out of this undercut, get right in front of my flies, and smack my egg. And it was a nice chromer. It wasn't huge, probably 25, 26-inch chromer. Good one to get the skunk off on.
You beached a fresh chromer on a 4-weight. I mean, 26 is a big steelhead, but 24 or 25-inch chromer, dude, that's a big fish because they're just so juicy. They rip. You said it was kind of under that tree line a little bit at that tail of that run, right?
Yep. Yeah, and there was just a very vague depression there.
Yep. If there would have been more fish, or we would have been able to see fish, or that would have been a nice little spot where you would have think like 4 to 6 would be hanging out. Real quick on that run, what do you think of when you saw it and how different it was?
Like I said, it's been so long since I've been there. I was like, oh, I'm here. This is where this started. I remember it being one big seam before. Am I wrong? Like it was one long seam. Yeah. I mean, it was one main seam that pretty much went the whole length and kind of shallowed out at the end, which is where we were the first year we went. That's how I remember that.
And you could walk both sides of that huge hole.
Yes.
The hole used to be humongous, and now it's way different.
Yep. Now it kind of twists and turns with the banks, and it switches back. I mean, it's a cool little run now. Mm-hmm. I like it.
I agree. I like it more. I'm with you. Yeah, it's a more of a trouty run. It's pretty sweet. It used to be just like a big frog hole. Mm-hmm. I mean, it used to hold a lot of fish, but it used to hold a lot of fish and a lot of headlamps.
Well, not mine.
That's right. So then all 4 of us meet back up at this run. You just landed one. We got 2 of the 4. Skunk is off, right? That's the goal. Stump's in there working it because he was already in there when I got there. Did he roll one? I can't remember.
Either him or Dave did. One of them did.
I don't remember either.
It's a minute detail. Somebody else got into something there, for sure.
Yeah. Or maybe it was a hook set and lost fish or something quick. I feel like it was something quick.
I do want to say, though, that I don't know about you, but I didn't realize how good it was going to feel to land one. When I held my hands up like that, it wasn't only me saying like a fish. I was just like, yes, we got it. You know what I mean? But it was that early in the day that it was just nice to get that monkey off your back.
Dude, it was awesome. I love when someone lands one and you don't expect it. It's motivation for the whole group. It just gets you more fired up. Then the next run, you fish harder. You just dial it in a little bit more, and everyone steps up that level because of that one fish. Yeah, it's awesome. I love when someone catches a fish, especially to get the skunk off. That's
Exactly. You're like, it can be done. You know what I mean? That's the all right.
yes,
It can be done. They're here.
we
We're here. We can do
we can do it.
it.
Yep, exactly. And it's just funny. You've talked about this, I've talked about this, but like we have this level of confidence fishing these streams, hunting these fish, but they just always find ways to humble you. And that's honestly, again, I love that part of it, but you just,
We talk about it on the podcast. We
I
talk about
know.
it to each other about how challenging it is. And then for some reason, I get up there and I'm just like, we're going to kill it. Like, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why that is. But it's like the whole time we're like, it can be tough. It can humble you. And then as soon as I get there, I'm like, man, we're going to slay them today. And then when that doesn't happen in like the first 3 hours, I'm like, oh, man.
I know, dude. And then you start questioning everything way too fast. I think it's really like this association with the environment. We're hitting runs the same time of the year where we have absolutely cleaned up. And I think you just dial that in. The runs seem like they're moving fish. The flows have been pretty solid. But anyways, we got two off the skunk. Stump and Dave are still hunting. And so we keep bebopping downstream. And there's still a lot of water to cover before we ever actually see beaver. And it's kind of a similar vibe, right? As like upstream, we kind of went cold there for a little bit. Maybe we weren't fishing them long enough or fishing them hard enough. I was just surprised at how sporadic the bite was. It was extremely sporadic. You could go all these beautiful runs in a row and not sniff a bite. All four of us all banging through this water. And then you come up to a next run and you sniff two or three out of it. And that is steelhead, but it just seemed even more sporadic than normal. We were in a lot of good steelhead water. You would have thought there would have been even a slightly more mist fish in this zone. And it was just kind of slow. I think you and Dave push ahead. Me and Stump kind of sift back a little bit, go a little bit slower. And then you guys get into a nice run.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys were in that water for a little bit.
So we get up to this run and I'm tight line and Dave has an indicator on. And from where I was
Yep,
standing,
good point.
I was just telling him, man, get your Indy through there because I wasn't really getting the drift I wanted to get. So I let him in. He throws his Indy in there a dozen times, whatever it is. And then he dips out. I cast into the stream and I hook a fish and he hooks my line. So now he's totally wrapped around the end of my line and I have a fish on. So then
Hmm.
I have to fight the fish with Dave's
Oh,
zonker at the end of my rod. You do that 100 times, you might land it once, and I get it all the way up. He nets it for me. I land the fish. It was a nice chromer, another quality fish, 24-inch fish.
did he keep his zonker on? Did everyone keep their flies on?
Yes, so he ended up cutting his line. I'm fighting the fish, and I told him at first just leave it because his zonker was sliding up and down my line. So I was like, let's not touch the line. Just let me work this fish a little bit. I think I can manage it because it was kind of wrapped to where it was just sliding up and down my line. And then eventually it gets caught up around my last eyelet. So he goes, I'll just cut it. So he cuts it, and then I finished fighting the fish, landed the fish. He got his zonker back. All was well.
That's funny. Good on Dave, you know? Good for him cutting that line, made a quick decision. It was before the fishing had started to pick up a little bit more. Good for Dave. That's great. Like you said, landed fish, zonker was saved.
Yep.
Doesn't take too long to retie some tippet on or whatever.
He was standing on the bank. My hook set, I went behind me, and I think I might have ended up running my rod into his line, and that's how it wrapped. I think that's how it went, which makes sense because I put the screw to the fish, and as I hook set, his line was just kind of dangling behind me, and I think that's how we wrapped.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I immediately visualized your hook set, and yeah, that's possible. Okay, that does make sense. Then Stump dips in on the other side of that run and is fishing that side of it. And I fish the head of where you are. You're still, I think, at that tail, so I'm fishing next to you. And then I came in on the other side. I think I was starting to follow Stump when he was already there. I scooted in behind him, and Dave jumped in where you were, that tail section, as you guys started pushing out and making your way downstream. And I'm glad we stayed because, you know, that was a good run and it showed fish. And I always look at water and I'm like, one, there's got to be steelhead in there. Even if we can't see him or can't catch him, there's got to be fish in there. But two, there's got to be more than one steelhead in a run. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
insane to me. Like, just one steelhead, oh, yep, got that whole run to himself. In my head, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna drill this side. I like fishing some of those ledges when you're tight line and you can really drop it off the side and hug that edge.
Yeah.
So I was really hugging that edge and kind of got in that zone, got in that mindset where I was just like, there's more fish in here and I'm in some good water. And sure enough, not long after Stump kicked out of that run, I'm gonna say a minute or two, I scooped a really nice fish. Mostly chrome, little color, but big fish, 26 plus. Scooped it out. Dave came over. Great net job. It was fun. Man, good fish, fat fish. Now I'm feeling great. You know, it had been a while, a few hours since I had hooked a fish. And then, you know, Dave ended up catching like a 12-inch rainbow in that same run. And it was cool because Dave's definitely got the most even keel and therefore balanced reaction to having tough days or tough moments on the stream. We all get pissed. Dave gets pissed too, but he handles the stress better than any of us. He caught this like 12-inch fish, dude, and he was like pumped. It was sweet because we've all been there where you're like,
Yep.
I don't even care what that was. I wish it would have been a steelhead, but just that tug on the line, even that can be enough to be like, all right, there it is. Let's get back into this.
Yeah.
It was cool to see him at least have a little bit of action. Again, nothing major, but I think it kind of rebalanced him and he was pumped about it. He's like, I just needed something. I just needed anything, dude.
Yeah.
And
We've all been there.
yes, we have. And then I want to say I sniffed something else in that run. Maybe lipped something or had a bite. It's been a little time since our trip, but we did fish it a little bit longer. I kept going even after that one I landed. But then ultimately wanted to find you guys, find beaver still early in the day. I say early in the day. It was lunchtime or so, but we still had plenty of daylight to keep hunting. Is this where you started having more success as we're bebopping? Or is this where we kind of then had another lull?
We had another lull for a little bit.
Okay, so you guys were moving pretty fast at this point. By the time I talked to you on the phone, me and Dave were still in that same run.
Yep.
And that's when you thought you were in the corner hole, but you weren't actually there yet.
Nope. Not even close.
Not even close. Okay.
Not even close.
Well, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. We were probably another two long straight runs and two bends in the stream from being there yet.
Okay. I got you. From my perspective, like it was kind of cool because as we are working down, although a lot of that stream, I didn't fully remember some of those runs and edges, and I'm sure some of that wooded stuff was different. But every now and then I would get to a run where I'm like, this takes me back to, you know, the early days. And that was cool. I enjoyed kind of reliving that. But did Stumper, you move anything until you saw beaver?
Stump and I did not move anything until Tahiti Rock.
Okay.
Yep, because Stump hadn't landed anything at this point.
Okay.
That was his first one.
First bite?
First bite. Because I remember talking to him later on in the evening. He's like, I was feeling pretty dejected up until that point because by chance or whatever it was, he just wasn't getting any action, really. No bites, no nothing. So he was getting a little bit discouraged of really beating up some water. And then obviously he's there for when I land two, you land one. He's seeing it being done, and he's in the same mode as Dave at that point.
Yeah. They're both just fighting to survive.
Yeah. We're just fighting to get the skunk off. So we actually roll up to a spot where we have a nice long deep run, just some nice steely water. And this is where this will come into play where you said it's like we're seeing water, we're fishing it, and we're like, there's gotta be stuff here. Maybe we're fishing it too fast at that point. That could have been a factor. You know, when you're not catching fish, you're almost in like a panic mode. So you're just kind of trying to find the best water possible to give yourself the best opportunity. And then you only fish it for a little bit, and then you look downstream and you're like, oh, that's enough down there. So you want to get down there to try and get the opportunity in there. But anyway, we get in a nice run, and we didn't sniff anything. And then down below that nice run, there's a singular giant slab boulder with a little run and some slack water behind it. And he slaps his flies off the side of this rock. They fall down in the slack water, and he goes tight and hooks his first one of the day. Nice football.
Slaps him off the rock.
Yep. He slapped them flies off that rock. They blooped in the water, and as soon as they hit the water, he went tight.
That's awesome. And so he slapped him off this rock, which in his defense, they can drop right off that and get nice and tight on that edge. So it's a solid method. And for context, they call it Tahiti Rock. Stump's nickname is Tahiti or Taquito, so therefore it's Tahiti Rock.
It was dubbed Tahiti Rock from there on out.
Yeah. I feel like he dubs us run or a rock or a hole every trip.
Yeah, anything he sniffs, then that's Tahiti's Run, Tahiti's Pocket, Tahiti's Hole, Tahiti's Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he'll give you, that's my hole.
Yeah, yeah. Get out of my hole.
And me and Dave are following you, and we're not sniffing anything. But again, some of these steelhead runs, you're just like, there's definitely fish in here. What is going on? And I wanted to highlight what you said earlier about when you aren't catching fish or people aren't catching fish, you definitely fish faster up there. Not you, I mean everyone. We fish faster because, like you said, you're looking at that next run, which I think makes a big difference up there. I think every run should be fished for minutes on end in reality with the way these fish are. But to your point, and it's kind of an addition of what I was saying earlier, when someone does catch one or gets a bite, everyone dials in more. So
Yeah.
then we kind of slow down and we level back out. It's the opposite, where if we're not catching fish, everyone can tend to fish a lot faster. And then it's twofold because then maybe we're not getting bites because we're fishing so fast. So you need that strike. You need someone to ignite the fuse periodically for everyone to redial back in.
It's also good that we split up
Yes.
because and if me and Stump go through really fast and then you guys are 15, 20 minutes, a half hour behind us, and then you fish it a little bit slow.
Right.
And really, we have the gauge. If you hook one, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay. Because, like you said, you almost have the opposite reaction of what you should have. If you're not catching them, you need to really dial in and fish harder. But your gut is like, all right, what looks the steeliest? Oh, that looks better down there. I'm going to go down there. Oh, that looks better. But it's the opposite of really what you want to do.
I agree 100%. It is the opposite. And to your point there's plenty of times where you get in that run first and 1, 2, 3 casts in, you do rip one. So it's that mindset where you're like, well, we're not sniffing anything. So if I can get to this next run, maybe I will get that first, second, third drift. We'll snipe one. And then we keep moving faster for that as well. Yeah, it's multifaceted, right? It's multi-layered in how you do this and how it affects us. But having multiple people, multiple groups, and kind of hitting water at different times or running them even behind each other you don't really want to do that as much in a trout stream. But in steelhead, again, we've proven that these fish can turn on at any time. We've talked about this. If you and Stump ran through that water and then me and Dave come, the lanes are so small. We've talked about how you got to bang them in the nose. You got to get them in their face. So if your drift is slightly different from where I'm drifting, that could be the difference of catching fish in that run. So if you're hugging that edge and then I come in and I'm drifting a whole different lane. Now, we're usually covering a lot of that water in these runs, but to that point of us moving a little bit too fast, moving faster than we should, maybe we aren't hitting every single lane or every single inch of that juicy water. And then we hit that water on our way back up and we're like, dang, there are fish in here. Yes, some good water. I know the run we're talking about. And then you and Stump are already in the corner hole. Me and Dave are coming down. And Tahiti Rock had like one of the only guys I saw that day out of our group was actually in that run because I'm walking by. I'm like, man, I wanted to fish that. And I didn't know that Stump had caught a fish out of there yet. But it was a cool little run that you're like, could be some steelies sitting in there. And so the guy got in there. And I think that was the only one I've seen someone else catch. When me and Dave went down and met up with you and Stump in the corner hole, I was looking up and I think that guy eventually, he might have lost it, but I think he hooked into one. And in my head, I'm like, I knew it. That guy took my fish. And then how long were you guys in the corner hole before me and Dave got to you?
I don't think it was that long. I
Yeah.
really don't. 10,
Okay.
15 minutes maybe. As we're walking down, Beaver calls Stump because we're like, we have to be getting close because he's walking up, we're walking down. Like, we know we're
Right.
down quite a ways now. So, anyway, we're up at Tahiti Rock and Beaver calls and we look downstream and him and Nate are standing in the corner hole. So they said they had some action in there. And what's really funny about this whole thing now, like looking back on it, the whole point of us was going to meet Beaver, and then Stump hangs up the phone with him, and I'm thinking like, all right, we're gonna go meet him down at the corner hole. They just turn around and walk the other way. They start walking back downstream. I'm like, well, where are they going? We're supposed to be meeting up with them. It was like they waved to us from 1,000 yards away, and we're like, yep, it's us. All right, we'll see you. And they just left. Because I don't know how long they had been there. They might have just needed a change of scenery.
We'll have to ask Beaver's perspective. You're right. He would have been good for this episode. I wonder if there was miscommunication and he still didn't realize that was you guys at that
Yeah.
rock. I don't know, but that is that is funny. You're like, all right, Beav, we finally caught up with you. We see you. We'll be right there.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, man, I'm gonna go downstream.
yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe he was just giving you guys the hole. I think maybe he misinterpreted you because I feel like he would have stayed there.
We get down in there, and maybe within the first 3 casts, I hook one. Had a couple head shakes, popped the hook. Nothing crazy, and it wasn't very big. I could just tell by fighting it. It wasn't huge, but about 2 casts later, I miss another one. So now I'm excited that I'm getting into fish, but I'm also mad because I'm like, there's 2 opportunities gone. Again, like you said, with the windows, the water's still pretty turbid enough and deep enough to where you couldn't see. I don't know how many's in here. Like, did I just ruin 2 opportunities and now they're going to be gone? Um, then eventually, I think, so maybe a couple minutes after that, I land one in there. Yeah, I land one in
So
there.
you go bang, 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 three in a row. Lost 2, but landed 1.
Yep. And then what I can't remember is if Stump caught another one before you got down there, or were you there when he caught his?
He was on the other side when he caught it.
Yep. Yeah.
I was there. Yep. So we came down at this point. Stump had, I don't know if he was already on the other side or if he was, but I did see him get that one.
And did I call you and tell you that we were into him down there? I felt like I called you and I was like, hey, I just missed a bunch in here. I just caught one. I feel like I did.
Yes, you did. Yep. You're right. You called and you said, I'm pretty sure we're at the right corner hole now. Beaver just went downstream. He was in here and I just hooked a couple. And then me and Dave kind of picked up our feet and beelined it to you guys. Yep, you're right. All right, guys. So this is where we had some technical difficulties to record the second part with Zach. So because of those challenges, I'm going to take over and finish up this next day and a half for us on this trip. So Dave jumps in the water kind of in the middle of the run. Zach's at the tail of it, and then I kind of slide into that head of that run. And right then, Stump bangs a really nice fish on the other side of the water. He lands that fish. Zach walks over. Great net job. Scoops and scores. Really nice fish. Big fish. And then shortly after that, I hook into a fish right at the head. 3 people, different spots. Fish are in different areas of this hole. So it's looking really, really good. And I think Dave landed that fish. So, you know, I think that's either my 3rd or 4th at this time. And then shortly thereafter, I hooked into another fish. So I catch 2 really nice fish, good battles, good runs, jumping, flipping out. These fish are juiced. Every fish we hooked into had either really good power, was dogging you down low, or was zipping line and jumping and flipping out. And sure enough, another one of those fish was able to scoop and score that one as well. We are feeling great. So it's sporadic action kind of leading up to this point. Then you find a good holding hole, a good spot where there is a solid pod, whether you can see them or not. This water was still turbid, pretty hazy, even still fairly dirty in a sense. So you couldn't see the fish, you couldn't spot them. Again, from past experience on this water, good holding spot in the past, and sure enough, they were holding there as well. So yeah, it gets hot. Zack's in the fish, Stump's in the fish, I'm moving fish. Again, if there aren't fish spread out in every run, like there have been in the past, we've had plenty of trips like that. Fish, a couple fish here, a couple fish there, kind of working your way. And they weren't like that. So we were able to find this pot of fish. Again, couldn't see them, but knew they were there based off of the action. I'm talking to Beaver throughout the day that him and his buddy hooked into a few fish in there. And sure enough, Zack's back into another one. He loses that fish. And we're kind of working and working this water and trying to get everyone in this run. We're in this like section where a couple fish have been spotted. We're banging all these fish as a group. And once you find fish, we're going to sit and work them for a bit. We've been working hard all day, put in a lot of boot miles to get to this point. And so I'm still trying to find beaver. I don't know where they went. You know, that miscommunication, they must have went downstream a little bit. So kind of hoping they pop back up. And so Dave's still kind of struggling, right? I don't know what it was. It was one of those days. It could have been a number of factors. It could have been not being slightly down enough because he's fishing slightly different. And he was doing some tight lining. He was doing indicator, switching it up. But I think these fish just where they were sitting, if you didn't hit them dead on, you just didn't have a ton of success on this particular day. Combine that with luck and timing, and I think that's kind of the way it was going for Dave on this day. So we're still trying to get him. I find out Stump's on the board. Now he's got another one. That's what we want. Now we're down to Dave trying to hopefully get a fish these last couple hours. And we're on fish, so that's the positive. We're moving fish. We just got to get him into one. And so we keep working, and I know Stump and Zack kind of push downstream a bit, keep exploring after we're in this hole for a while. Fishing cools off in the runs, and then we decided to go downstream a bit and see what these guys are doing, if they're seeing anything else, if they're moving any other fish. And we don't get that much further down. And then Beaver, Stump, Zack, and Nate, all 4 of those guys start pushing up. I'm watching Dave fish this run, and nothing's happening. So those guys get to us, and we all kind of start making our way back upstream. And at this point, time's ticking away. Maybe we have another hour. So we go back up to where the fish are and decide to bounce around through a couple runs and holes through this like 400 or 500 yard stretch. and mix and match and move around and hopefully find a few more fish to close it out. Again, we're trying to get Dave on one before the day ends. And then anything else we can scoop individually as a team is all bonus from there. So then we're kind of like spreading out a little bit. In this stretch, we got a couple guys sitting in the corner hole working water again. Then we got a few guys that move up to Tahiti Rock. The guy that was in there pushed out a while ago. So Dave goes up with Stump and Zack to hopefully move another fish. Stump jumped in there and sure enough, scooped another fish out of there. So he's got at least 3 here in the last hour or so. And I can't remember if they banged another one out of there. I started going up there with Nate still fishing in the corner hole. And I didn't get to fish with Beaver all day, so I wanted to see what he was up to, check out the fish that Stump just landed, and chat with those guys and see what they're thinking. Beaver, similar mentality to me, knows where fish are. He wants to go back where Nate is. He goes, I'm going to go back to the corner hole. I wanted to fish with Beef, so I went back that way with him. Really, really down to go anywhere. I hooked a few fish, landed a few fish there. I'm feeling good. I'm on a high note, so I'm kind of go with the flow at this point. And Dave, Stump, and Zack keep going up to the next run, again, trying to find Dave a fish. Ironically, I think maybe Dave got a snag quickly, had to pull out of that next run. Zack jumped in and I think maybe scooped another one. In a run that we fished multiple times, but there might have been another 2 fish potentially there at the end of the day. And it just really goes to show you these fish, they go in waves in the way they're hitting, moving into holes that they maybe weren't sitting in a couple hours ago. They're constantly moving upstream, so fish could have pushed into this run, or maybe it was the timing. Whatever it is, you notice these trends over time where, again, just because you fish a hole for 10 minutes and you perceive yourself as fishing it hard or a group of guys fish it hard, it doesn't mean there aren't fish in there. It doesn't mean you shouldn't come back to that run later. If it looks steely, if it looks fishy, go back to it and fish it again. And that's what we do a lot of times, especially because we're working back to the vehicles from whichever way we came. So we're hitting water different periods throughout that day. And there's multiple times where you get caught off guard a little bit surprised that, hey, wait a minute, there's a fish. You had that feeling earlier, didn't transpire into that, but here you are 7-8 hours later, and there are fish eating and hooking into fish at this time. And you never know, just like we're talking about here, fish caught out of runs that we fished multiple times. I'm a big fan, I've mentioned that last light bite or the late light bite. As we're getting in that last hour, lights dropping, these fish get more tuned in. I think they're willing to take more risk at this time. That lower light, they feel more protected, just like an evening bite for trout, right? While that's going on, me, Beav, and Nate are down in the corner hole still, hitting that last light bite as well. And Nate hooked into 2 more, so he had a solid day, especially in this run. The first one, he had a good battle. It eventually spit him, got away, and then we were able to scoop that second one. Beautiful fish. He worked it perfectly, was able to get a good net job on it, and Nate had a really good day. It was really cool. This was his first time up here, Erie steelhead fishing, and so it was good to see him get into some fish. And then I missed a fish. I break off on the hook set, so I hooked into a really good fish. And again, me and Zack talked about this in previous episodes, trout versus steelhead. You tend to break off on these fish is on this hook set, and this fish was big, and I remember he boom, 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 like pounded my hook. I set up and it was like hooking into a cinder block. And whatever it was, hook set, and he snapped me. And then after that, we're kind of just working, hopefully scoop one more before we call it. Beaver was fishing the other side and he was not able to get one there at the end. And that happens, right? Nate had the run. I had a couple there. Fortunately, Beaver just wasn't able to scoop one at the end. So then we meet up with Zack and Stump and Dave. Dave wasn't able to scoop one that day. He had some nice redemption on day 3. But it was fun. We got to hunt different water that I haven't fished in a few years. Some of it felt very familiar. Some of it felt very foreign. So it was cool. It's really nice when you get to see some different scenery and switch it up on these trips and of course move some good fish. So, and then we were hoping to get some updates from the other guys. I know Brett and Jeff were on some different parts of the water, moving a couple fish here and there. They were going to try some different water the next day and go from there. So we called it. Packed up, and then we did pizza that night. We, especially with the Airbnb, grabbed some pies, grabbed some wings, and the crew, did our thing back at the house. Drank some beers, enjoyed the camaraderie, talking about the day. We were all split up, so we got to hear how did Beav and Nate do throughout the day. I love that part of it. It's kind of a cool culmination for these days, talking about the highs, the lows, the challenges, and sharing some beers, eating some pizza, getting some good laughs in. Then getting some lowdown information from Jeff and Brett. They did well. They found fish, which was encouraging just to know that there was more fish upstream, kind of confirm your assumptions. That's where they're moving, but until you see them, it's hard to fully get that confidence that the fish are up there. So it was really cool to hear that these guys found a bunch of fish, but we didn't find that out until after the fact. And that was day 2. Again, we had to move around, but it paid off. We moved quite a few fish in the end. And now we're setting our mindset for day 3. We have a lot of recon over this first day and a half. And the other benefit is the water keeps getting clearer, the levels are dropping, and we decide we want to start back on the water that we started on day 2. Again, we moved a couple fish, but it was still pretty high and pretty dirty. But looking at the gauges Friday night, everything is starting to round into form. And we decided to break it up again. Starting that morning, we did our breakfast, normal routine. And me, Dave, Stump, and Zack, we start upstream on the stream that we've been trying to fish all weekend. And we go 2 and 2. And then Beaver and his buddy Nate start way downstream, and they're going to work up on some really good water. And then Brett and Jeff are going back to different water again, private water, hunting that stuff. So again, splitting up, a lot of different people, a lot of different spots, really covering water, covering ground. So we're excited. Really wanted to get on this stream and have a shot at solid flows. And we get there and the water looks much better. It's still higher for sure. Pretty good flowing water. Clarity's looking much better. Still pretty darn turbid, but it's looking really nice. Dave and Zack start at the one hole. I'm kind of upstream. Me and Stump beeline it down to another hole that we want to start at. Both really good holding holes in the past. Good places for Steelhead to just sit and wait for better flows, to rest, whatever it is. And it did not take long. A couple minutes into that first light bite. I'm talking about the last light. There's also that first light bite. And I'm working at the tail of the run. Stump's more at the head of the run. But this is a big hole. You could fish multiple sides of it. But this is an awkward hole to fish. It's very different than it used to be years ago, especially the tight line. You could indie fish it a little bit easier, but it has a lot of conflicting currents, cross currents, weird seams that join together. Sometimes you can get a solid drift, sometimes it just doesn't line up perfectly. So not the easiest run to fish anymore, but definitely fish in there. And sure enough, within a couple minutes, I hook into a nice one on the tail. I'm gonna say maybe 10 seconds or so. I did not have him on long, pumped me a few times, boom, boom, boom. That rod was bent and he spit me. I'm not sure what happened. I thought I had a fairly good hook set into it, but he didn't stay on long. And then a few minutes after that, Stump's kind of working his way around the other side and he hooks into a nice fish. But same story. We don't really know what happened. He just kind of spit him. So 0 for 2. And then Zack and Dave start coming down. It hasn't been that long into the morning. And Zack rolled one and lost one. So now we know there's fish. So, and in my mind, I'm like, great. All right. First light bite, hitting quick. 2 good holding holes. Fish are already starting to show us some action. That's a really good sign if you do get that first light bite. Unfortunately, we're 0 for 3 on these fish, but it doesn't matter in the sense that early recon, early action, get your spirits up, plus water's looking good. So we're getting excited. So those guys are down here, we're chatting, we're all kind of fishing. Zach's telling me about his fish, getting a rundown on that, what the water and flows look like up there. And then I know Dave and Zach start pushing downstream a little bit earlier than me and Stump. I think we fished that water for a little bit longer, but we know there's a lot of good water to keep hitting. So it's not too long. I'm gonna say maybe an hour into that morning, me and Stump are following behind, hitting some water that I know usually holds fish. We're working down and then all of a sudden we catch back up with Dave and Zach, and Dave's having some action, which is awesome because Dave needed it. Really rough the day before. Sure enough, lands that fish. He got that monkey off his back. So we're all super pumped for him. You can tell it was a huge sigh of relief. And then I come to find out he went 1 for 3 in that run. So he literally went bang, bang, bang and had that moment. You hook into multiple in a row. It's amazing. It's because that can last for hours for you. You have that action in your head, that can keep you motivated for hours. He lost the first 2 before me and Stump actually got down to him, and then hooked the third one in that same really nice run, juicy, steely water. It was awesome. Now we are into like 5 fish as a group. We got one on the board. So we keep going. And it doesn't get too much further to where we decide to turn around. And I'm not sure what actually prompted us. It could have been the time of day. Maybe it was the idea of wanting to go upstream even further, start heading back towards the cars and then go up further than that. That was a discussion that we jumped into. And then it was really about how far did we want to go? Do we want to go up super far? Do we want to go to a certain point that I had thought of? But I had this question lingering in the back of my head. How far have these fish gone? And I believe they've gone pretty far at this point, regardless of the time of year. So We do make that decision as a group. Just the four of us, still haven't heard much from Beaver, and then haven't heard anything from Brett and Jeff. So the four of us decide, all right, let's work some of this water back up, hit some of those holes that we've found fish already, and then go upstream from there and see what's what. So we're moving up. Dave and Zack are ahead of us, kind of beelining it upstream to some of those holes we started on in the morning. I'm with Stump, and we're in this one like waterfall style run, and he hooks into a fish. Nothing big, maybe 20, 22, something in that range, chromer, fresh fish. And it popped him, spit his hook. And from that point on, it really, really picks up. As me and Stump fish this run for a little bit longer, not too much longer, maybe a couple minutes. Again, wanted to keep pushing forward. So those guys were ahead of us again, moving forward. We got up to the hole where we started the day. We were fishing that again, good holding water, but challenging to fish. It was kind of a mental game on this hole. You knew there was fish in it. We hooked into 2 earlier, but we wanted to explore more water. So we did fish this run for a bit longer. No action though. You know, Dave and Zack had already pushed up even further. So they were up there, curious to see what they were doing. I didn't get to see that hole yet. I wanted to see how those flows were. And then, so as we're heading up, sure enough, I see Zack's rod bent in half. By the time we get there, he's still working that fish, but he loses it in the end. So, and then we find out right after that, he went 4 in a row, 4 hookups, 4 fish, and I believe he lost all 4 of them. We are already feeling really good on this morning. Action like that is telling you multiple things. 1, there's fish here. 2, the bite is really turning on, whether it's the day, whether it's these couple hours in the morning, but they are more active than they have been in the previous 2 days. That's a great sign. So really looking forward to this opportunity now. Once you see this type of action, I know in my head, I'm gonna sit on these fish for a bit, work this run for a while, and hopefully there's more fish in here. Zack, had so much action right there. He let me push into that hole. Dave was fishing it as well. It did not take long for me to hook into a fish, and I had a really good battle. These battles up here in this hole were wild for all of us. We'll continue to talk about this as this episode goes. We lost a ton of fish. The cross currents, the heavy undercurrents, fish were dogging you, rolling you, jumping, wrapping line like crazy, spitting line. It was an absolute blast. When you're hooking into a bunch of fish as a group, individually, all of the above, you only need to land a few. The ride is borderline just as good, if not better. And as long as you scoop a couple in the net, then it all comes together for you. So again, great battle, ripping line, dogging me, and I ultimately lose that fish. And then, because it's a unique hole, it's got like heavy currents, waterfall style, but you're able to fish at least 2 at a time. You could even work 3 because this water was still pretty high. So it made those flows wider and bigger. So we were able to at times fit 3 in there. You had to watch your lines, work together, work a little bit in sync. You know fish are here. You want as many guys in this water as possible because you all want to see people have success. So that's what you do. Then sure enough, I hook into another fish. And I did not have this fish on long. It kind of, hit me hard, hit me quick, maybe a 5-second battle, hook set on and then pop me. Shortly after that, I hooked into a 3rd fish in this run. I'm on a very high note, a lot of action quick, but these fish just keep dogging all of us. Again, in these heavy currents, they're just nosediving. And if they're not nosediving, they are jumping, they're peeling line, they're flipping out underwater until they eventually wrap you and make it borderline impossible to land these fish once they wrap you. So they were hard to land, but the ride, the visuals, unbelievable. And it was just getting started, it really was. We're maybe late morning, maybe like 11 or so. We got 5-6 hours left to keep going. It does not stop. Then Zack's into another fish, and he loses that one in quick battle. So we kind of went from either a really long battle with these fish, or they got off pretty quickly. And so Zack's into like number 5 in this run. I'm 0 for 3, but I've just hooked into 3 fish with 2 really good battles. And then right after that, maybe a minute after Zack loses that fish, Stump's into his first fish in this run, and then he loses that one. Again, that themes. We are 0 for 6 or 7 in this run, but it's literally been maybe 30 minutes fishing it, which is crazy. Not crazy that stuff doesn't happen, but crazy because it wasn't happening. And the last couple of years have been challenging fishing for whatever reason. So when you do get these moments, kind of like the way we finished day 2, but this action was even hotter and faster. And they were hitting flies pretty good. So now I hook into another one, and that gave me a hell of a battle. If you can't get it out of that current, it's just more time to lose that fish. We were putting the screws to these fish. I had my drag set pretty heavy, giving them as much side pressure as possible. Strong fish, heavy cross currents underwater, just tough environment to get them out of. 3-4 minute battle, wrapped me, eventually popped off. And we just keep going. Then stumps into fish number 2. He loses that one. And here's the cool thing, they are eating everything. So there wasn't one specific fly or egg or color that they were dialing into. There was a pot of fish in this hole, and they were hungry, and they just started eating. So if you put it in their face, they ate it. I know I had luck with purple beads. I know different egg color patterns were working. Orange, lighter colors, stoneflies were working. Flash, red, different colors. It really was random, but it just goes to show that bite was on. So Stump loses another one. And then Zack is into fish number 6, I think it was, 6 or 7. But it was funny because I remember this fish and going back through some of the footage, he set that hook, and he starts bouncing his rod tip a little bit. He goes, I think I'm stuck. I'm like, well, that snag is moving right now. And after he bounced a little bit, it started moving on him, realized it was a fish. So I actually missed the net. It darted away from me when I went to scoop, and then it beelined it downstream. So there's this little run after the hole, and it got caught in those currents, and it just starts going. And we start laughing, and it's on. When a fish really pushes you down or upstream and you're moving with it, it gets kind of crazy, but it's really fun. All of a sudden you're on this ride and it's like, here we go. And so I start booking it next to Zack as he's going downstream with this fish. We get to a nice soft seam, not that long, maybe 30, 40 yards downstream. I was able to get a good scoop on it, netted it, beautiful chromer. You get a visual on the Steelhead Alley podcast Instagram. Fish number 6 for Zack in that run, finally got one on the board. We're constantly rotating the 4 of us, kind of getting to that 2 at a time. Someone breaks off, someone hooks into a fish, they step out, let the next guy in, working both sides, rotating that as well for everyone. And Dave hooks into fish number 1 in this run. And it was a good long battle. Beautiful chromer. And so Dave's got one on the board. I'm 0 for 4 or so. Zack's got one on the board. He's been into a bunch. Stump's 0 for 2 in this run. So tons of action. And then when you have this type of action, everyone relaxes and everyone's riding high. It's time for a beer. It's lunchtime. And Zack and Dave offer to head to the truck, grab for everyone because we got a good spot. We're going to sit at this run for a while, eat lunch while fishing, rotating, drink some beers, and start that celebration early. So those guys went up there. Me and Stump got to keep fishing while they were making that run. And then I actually missed one. It was a crazy heavy hit. He hit it hard and aggressive. Set on that and I just missed it. I must have lipped it. I think I had it on for like half a second. I was probably just a hair delayed on my hook set, to be honest, and I didn't get it fully embedded, and it was a good hit, and I was ready to hook into that fish. And sometimes, for me at least, those fast, aggressive strikes or even double tap in that strike, I lose them more often. I think maybe they catch me off guard a little bit. I'm used to more of that subtle take. And those are the moments where you just know you're so close, but you laugh about it. You enjoy that, even that thought of, man, if I had been a hair quicker on that hook set, I'd be riding this fish right now. And then we hit that lull. We talk about this. You hit periods of time where, for a number of reasons, that could be weather changes, time of day, and they did cool off for a while, which was perfect, right? We're ready to eat some lunch, drink some beers, so it kind of cooled off for a good 30 minutes to an hour or so. We were still fishing, but chilling, and then I'm back in there and I lose another fish, really big fish. I did not have it on very long. Hook set, bent my rod in half, and it was one of those, had it on, felt that pressure hard, rod's bent, and he actually broke me off after that quick battle. So this fish was awesome because I casted like way up in the head of this like waterfall hole, way in this current, and luckily my flies just hit it perfect and sunk quick, and he smoked it fast. And you can see in the video, my rod is just like boom, 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 right in half, side pressure. But again, he spits me. I'm not sure really what happened. Can't see underwater. Thought I had a heavy, good hook set, but the head shakes and whatever, they spit flies easy. I still haven't actually landed one on the day. I think I'm 0 for 7 or something like that. But it really does not matter. You're into that many steelhead in that amount of time. Obviously, I want to land one. It gets to that point where you're like, all right, let's put one on the net. There's no complaints. This is what we're here for. And the action was awesome. So there was a little precipitation that day too, and it actually picks up later, which we'll talk about. But the currents actually changed a little bit in this run. They got a little bit harder to drift at one point, where it was pushing your flies outward if you were hugging the one edge. The hole was a little challenging to get the drifts down. Heavy weight, working, the head of the runs and really letting them sink. But then all of a sudden, the one side, I was drifting a certain line, and then that line kind of like faded and pushed away as this current went up just a hair. And so now we've had much less action. I think the guys are getting a little restless. It's been another hour or so. The goal was to keep moving upstream originally. I want to see what's up there. At least move up some, however far that is, we'll determine as we're moving based off of the action. And that's what we decided. Let's change it up. We need to switch it up. Weather was getting a little funky. There was some sleet. Kind of a thunderstorm was pushing in. And at the same time, Beaver was going to start making his way upstream from where he was until he found us. And again, it's starting to rain, sleet. The weather's hitting a little bit heavier, so we're putting on our rain jackets, kind of covering up for this hike upstream. So it just got a little bit nasty out. I love it. If you're prepared, you got the gear, it's no big deal. So we bundled up as we're working, and of course that goes two ways because you're hiking upstream in water, really putting on the boot miles. You start sweating, you start overheating, and we just put on an extra layer. So you're kind of battling that as well, getting overheated while getting some sleet on you. And we were moving upstream pretty fast. We were fishing some good runs, but time was of the essence. We wanted to get to a certain point. So we're kind of going a little bit quicker, again, fishing water, but also thinking about hitting up some of these upper runs, these holding points, and that's where we've been finding fish. So we had that on our mindset. So we're moving a little bit faster, maybe even cutting through the woods some to kind of save some time. And we get to this point and we fish these runs and fish some of these upper holes, and the weather's not ideal. There's even some lightning and thunder starting to show up. So we fish maybe 45 minutes to an hour, working some of this water, the four of us kind of spreading out, hitting different sections. No real action. We didn't move fish. That's tough. Did we fish as long as we probably should have? No. But again, that was part of the timing, didn't align perfectly for us. Some good water that we were all fishing. Some of it was actually a little hard to fish because of those levels were still kind of high. And when you're into a ton of fish and then you don't move any fish for a while, you get in your head like, all right, let's salvage some time and let's go back, find Beaver, see how he did, and get back into some sections that did hold fish. So we all kind of start making our way back. And I see this guy walking who's not that far behind us as we're turning around, and we're kind of cutting through the side, and he's on the stream in all black. And I'm like, man, I'm surprised to see anyone else up here right now. But it's funny. It was Beaver the whole time. I did not recognize him. He had his face covered. He had his hood up. We walked right by him. I didn't even know. After the fact, I kind of thought to myself, I wonder if that was actually Beaver. Because again, I was surprised to see one up there at that time with the way the weather was hitting with the storm kind of pushing in. And sure enough, called him. And I realized, Beaver, I'm sorry, man. We literally walked right by you. And so Beaver had hiked all the way up there and then kind of was like, oh, sorry, bud. You got to turn it around now. We're making our way back. Luckily, we found him and he caught right up with us. And so now me and Zack push ahead a little bit faster than the three of those guys. It's been maybe an hour and a half plus in between since we were there last. And there might be people there. So that's the other thing on our brain. If anyone moved into that hole, we'll just keep going again downstream and hunt some of that water that we moved fish earlier. No big deal. But in the back of your head, you're like, man, I want to get there. Hopefully it's open. And me and Zack get there probably 5-10 minutes before the rest of the group, and a huge lightning bolt strikes down. I mean, it was miles away, but it was right in the middle of the stream. You watch it, and we both kind of like, oh, snap. Maybe we should sit out for a bit, see if this lightning clears before we take our big rods and our semiconductors, and we're in this body of water. So let's take a break and not jump in right away. And that's what we did. Sat on the log, just chilled out. Waited for the weather to get a little bit better. It stayed stormy, but we didn't see lightning for a while. So we jumped back in, and by then the other guys had made their way down. And here we go. The action starts to pick up again. These fish are hungry again. They had some time to cool off. New set of fish starting to eat whatever it is. And I hook into a fish right away. Unfortunately, it was only like a 13, 14-inch rainbow trout, but it was beautiful. Super clean, spotted up, clean, like dime bright fins, really, really pretty fish. Pretty cool. And it was on the egg. So not a ton of action on the egg for me that day. I think it was orange and pink or something like that. And then not too long after that, Zack hooks into another big steelhead. And this one probably pushed him for like 30 seconds or so. And sure enough, it popped him. So then we're working this water, and Beaver, Stump, and Zack decide to go downstream some. Dave wants to fish this hole longer. I have no problem with that. Fish are biting. I'm good. And then I hooked into another fish. Big colored up male, and I finally landed it. So I think I'm like 0 for 8 or something in this run, and then I finally got this fish, landed it. Nice scoop and score by by Dave, good net job. And then from here, it really turned on again. That last hour and a half, 2 hours, not only did the bite go crazy, but they were rising. And I love seeing steelhead rise. These massive rainbow trout surfacing. Some of them are porpoising, some of them are sipping. And so just visually, really fun to see. Me and Dave were having a blast, not only hooking into fish, but then watching this surface action happen. And then at the same time, fish are actually jumping the falls and shooting up the chutes and making their way. Maybe it was that last hour or two, it was a little darker because of the storm, but something turned on in them, and all of a sudden they start sipping the top and they start trying to jump these waterfalls. And it was awesome seeing a 27, 28-inch fish slap off this rock because he didn't hit the right spot to make it up. The one just like hit the rock and slid back into the water, and it just kind of blew both of our minds, this frenzy that was going on, and it was really, really cool. I'm still riding a high from it. And I get into another fish, juiced up, it jumped, and sometimes I look at fish and they're flipping out and their head's shaking midair. I swear they just like look at you and wink, spit the hook and just laugh and dive back in. And I'm pretty sure that's what this fish did. He was juiced up, jumped midair and just kind of spit me. It happens. It keeps happening. And then again, shortly after that, I'm into another one and it was just hot. You know, I don't know if this is 10, 11, whatever it is. And this one, I got to keep on. I had on for a few minutes, good battle. And then he broke me off. I was on the one side of the edge and he just hugged it a little bit too tight. I was trying to guide his head out, put a little pressure in there and push him away from this edge. And I think he just nicked it and boom, you know, that pink and gone. And there was another one down. Then Dave loses another fish. He's like 2 or 3 fish in this hole, caught 1 or 2. Then I'm into another one and Dave lands this fish for me. So we're getting down to that last light bite again. That frenzy's still going on. So then I got to land another nice fish, good ride, good battle. But my land rate was at like 3 or 4 all day out of how many fish. And, you know, getting that one there at the end of the day, it really solidified that awesome run that we had. And then those guys came up and we were fishing a little bit longer. Everyone was fishing this run. You know, I think maybe another missed fish or 2 here. And then by then it's, you know, it's getting dark. The weather's picking up. Levels are actually continue to rise slightly from that weather. And so everyone had caught fish. We had an absolute blast. The trip really built up to this day. We worked hard. Day 1, day 2, now we're into day 3, and finally got on the stream that we had been targeting all weekend, and it produced and it paid off, and everyone hooked into a bunch of fish. We all landed fish. If you're gonna close out a trip, that's how you want to do it. You know, there is no questions going into that evening, that next morning, where we got to get that skunk off before we head home, before this trip is officially over. That weather kept turning and that precipitation, they were calling for like a half an inch of rain overnight. So we were preparing for high levels on that Sunday morning. Depending on how things look, how high it got, usually it takes a lot for us to not be out there. So then we're doing our thing, getting feedback from everyone and really just having a good time. We were all drinking some beers and just yucking it up, laughing, going over the day and just kind of enjoying our time with each other. It was a great way to wrap up this trip because sure enough, checking gauges, woke up that next day, they had pumped pretty significantly in that cubic feet per second. And with the water already being up, you know, we knew that water would have gotten significantly dirtier, gone up 40, 50 CFS from where it was on Saturday where we finished. So some of us were going to head out early. Some of us went to get breakfast and then take a peek at the creek and see how it looked. And that's what we did. We went to the diner, got some breakfast. Me, Dave, Zack, and Stump filled our bellies. Now, Zack did go check out the water, took a look at it, said it was pretty high, off-colored, probably fishable. But with the 5-6 hour drive back for us, we decided to call it, and we were all still riding a very high note. Great trip, and that's where it ended. Multiple streams, multiple days of putting on those miles, searching, and it felt like a steelhead trip, and that's how we like it. The amount of work we do for these fish, the amount of time and effort and detail that we put into finding these fish and hopefully just catching one is what makes it worth it. So when you have those days you get skunked or you have those hours of time where you're not moving fish or you're just searching and it can be mentally taxing, but you hook into one, you land one, your buddy catches one, and that's what we're there for. The harder it is, the more rewarding these fish are, and that's the way I look at it, and that's the way I've always looked at it. If it was easy, I know I would not enjoy it as much. It is the multiple layers of challenges that make these fish so much fun, plus all of the above. Really, really fun trip. Glad we got to recap it, y'all. I appreciate you tuning in for part 2. This one's going to go a little bit longer than our normal episodes, but I wanted to fit it all in this part 2 rather than split it up into a third part. So I thank you all for tuning in. Get ready. We already went on trip number 2. Very, very different. Again, trials and tribulations. Snowy and icy on this next trip that we went on. We still got into fish. Just like this trip, it got better and better as the days went on. Breaking ice, hunting in snow, very different environment, very different trip, but still had a ton of fun, so I can't wait to dive into that with you. Hopefully with a couple of the guys from that crew, I'm hoping to get on for that trip recap. So stay tuned, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in. Steelhead Alley Podcast. If you guys are getting out on the water, good luck, enjoy your time, and we'll see you later. Take it easy, guys.